Hello everybody, my name is Paul Engen. Welcome to PEbits, and today we're going to talk about creating a top menu that's fixed so you can have your content kind of scroll under it. We'll set up some overstates and some active states, and then we'll set up an active state for the links that we're actually on, so better usability. Alright, so why don't we get started. At the bottom you'll see a link. It'll take you to a software called Brackets. Brackets are what we're going to be using today for creating our HTML. It is free, open source, so you should be able to just download it, grab the latest version, and then join in creating the document. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to save this as an HTML file. So I'll just do a quick save as, and then in here we'll call this nav.html, and this just allows the software to know what type of document we're making. And then we're going to just start our HTML file off with HTML, the doc type, indicating that it's HTML. We're going to create our opening and closing tags. Nice thing about the software is that it closes the tags for us. And I'm just creating a basic HTML structure. There we go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create our nav, and we're going to use that HTML5 nav tag for that, just to make it easier to identify. Just tabbing it over just to, again, make it easier to see. We're going to make an unordered list. And then in here, we're going to make our list items. So we'll call this top link 1. And I'm just going to copy Command or Control C and then V. And you can retype it if you don't want to copy and paste it. And this is going to be 2, 3, 4. There we go. Now what we're going to do is we will save it. The nice thing about Brackets is it has this live preview. So it will open up, get this out of the way. There we go. It'll open up a window that kind of indicates what's going on, and then we can kind of see what's happening with our file. All right. So the first thing we'll do now is we'll define our style. So in our head for this, we're going to create our style tag. And the type will be CSS. Next thing we'll do is we will create the nav style. We're going to give the nav a width of 100, so it spans the entire width of our browser. We're going to give it a Z index that's pretty high, so it's on top of all our elements. Some people do like 1,000. You could do whatever you want. Really, there's no, I don't think a limit to your Z index, but it doesn't have to be too big. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust the position, and with the position we're going to make it fixed, so this way it doesn't move and it always rests on top. And then I think that's good for right now for the nav. Now we can save this and see what's happening, and right now we haven't done anything with the list. So next up what we will do is we will play with the nav UL, and this is the unordered list inside the nav, and we just want this to be modified, not every unordered list. So we'll make this width 100% of its parent, right? We're going to set the display of this to block, so it takes up the entire width of the screen. We want our navigation to be centered, so we're going to set a text line to center. We're going to set the background color just so we can see what's going on here of that bar. And what I used was orange, red, just like that. And Last thing we'll do is we will set the margin for this to 0. So now we have our bar. One of the things you'll note is in here you'll see a gap at the top and the left, and that's because by default the browsers add a margin to the body of your HTML. So we're going to create a new tag up here called body, and we're going to set that margin to 0. And that should get rid of that gap up there. So now it's flush. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the list items and we're going to make them sit next to each other. So we're going to do nav ul li. So we're basically talking about the list item in the unordered list located inside of the nav. And we're going to set the display to inline block. These code hints are great. We'll save this so you can see what's going on. So now that it's right next to each other, next thing we're going to do is we're going to add padding. And we can add a general padding, but what I want to do is add 20 pixels padding on the top and the bottom. So we're going to do padding bottom, padding top. And those will both be 20 pixels. And then what I want to do with the right and left is I want to add more padding. So the padding on those will be 40 pixels. Like that. Once we're done with that, I'll hit save so we can see what's going on. So now you can see we have some padding around our links. So next up is we can divide the borders on this. So we could do border right. Let's see, border right. We can work our way down. There we go. Border right. And we'll set like a 2 pixel border. We'll make it solid and we'll make it white. We'll do the same thing with a border left, and we'll set the same properties. So 2 pixel solid white, and there we go. Now one of the things you'll note is we have this weird gapping. The HTML elements create their own spaces. So there's a few workarounds for this. You could float them, but if you float them, then you can't have it centered. So nice, quick, easy way to modify this is to basically just create a margin that's negative. So a margin left, and I'll just set it to -6 pixels. And you might need to adjust this, but that seemed to work for me pretty well. So now we have those elements. So we're going to keep going on this. We'll create a hover state for our list items. So we're going to do a nav ul li, and then we're going to use a pseudocode for hover. And what this will do is when our mouse is over the links here, it'll turn into a color. So we'll go in here. We got to just type in background color. Should see it here. And then we'll pick the coral. Oop. There we go. So now if we were to save this, you should see we have our rollover links. And then if we want a click, then what we can do is set a nav ul li active. And then we can set this to a different background color. So we'll do background, spell that right. Background color. And And let's set that to corn silk. There we go. And we're going to set the color for the text to black. And let's see how that looks. All right, I think that looks pretty good. One of the things I'm also going to do is in here, I'm going to set the color in my list item. I'm going to set the color to white for the text by default. So we have that. There we go. I think that's looking pretty good. So at this point we have our general nav, and if we want to create links for this, we can just put our hrefs around our items that we want to link to, and I'm just going to use a £, but obviously inside of those quotes would be the links of where you want these to go. So I'll just copy that. I'm just copying and pasting, again, Command C, Command V, or Control C, Control V. And now we actually have links that could take us places. Now, one of the things we might want to do is set up an active class. So for instance, let's say I'm on this actual link. What I could do in here is I could go class, and I'll set this up as a nav active. And then what I want that to be is just what I already have up here. So what I'll do is I'll do a nav or a .nav active right here, and I'm separating it by a comma like that. .nav active, and I need to place that actually on the list item like that. Now the other thing we can do with this is get rid of the links. Like that. So now we don't have an active link on this. And we still have a hover over here, so we want to override that hover. So in here, again, we'll do a comma separated. We'll do a .nav active hover like that. And what this is going to do is just going to override it, so there's no rollover when we roll over that link. Like that. Now we can keep adding to this, so we could add a box shadow to our actual nav. So in our nav here, if we want to have a little shadow that goes into our item just to give it a little depth, we could set box shadow. Oops, sorry about that. Box shadow. And then in here we can set the X and Y offset, and I just want the shadow to go straight down, so I'm going to have no offset here. I'm going to have a 10 pixel offset on the Y, and then how much blur we want. And then I'm going to give this an RGB A value, so with an alpha channel, and it's going to be black with a 0.5, so basically 50% transparency. That, and then we can see that there's the drop shadow. So now when we have content, it'll cast a shadow on that content when it rolls over it. The other thing we might want to do is do an inset shadow to show like that this is pressed a little bit or is active, and we can do the same box shadow, but just using an inset for the active state. So in here under our nav ul li active, I'll add one more thing called box shadow. Box shadow. And then we'll make this inset shadow. And this will be no X, no Y, with the 3 pixel blur, and it's going to just be black. Just like that. And you can see that already there's the shadow, so now it looks like it's pressed, and these all will carry that same property. So if I jump to different ones, I can just make the class active for that link, and then it'll look just like our link 2 here, which is the active link. So here's the code. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. Let me know if there is something else you wanted to see. But the great thing about this is it is centered. It's 100%. We could set a minimum width to this as well. So this way the browser can't go beyond a certain point without it scrolling. So we can do a lot more with this, but this is a quick top menu for a possible website. Again, this is Paul Ingen at PEbits. Please subscribe. I'll be posting more videos soon. Thanks.